Howdy lovelies, how are you all doing? Welcome back to our crafting, where we learn, grow and craft together. In today's session for our art journal, circle art journal, I want to try something different. Watercolor paints. Now you all know I'm not a painter. I call it a painter, and I want to just play with water paint. I have been using water paint quite a bit in the last few sessions or in the past, and I love the feel of watercolor. And maybe it's something that I should start exploring, is to get myself a little bit more acquainted with the medium. Now for today it will be a scenic scene, and I will be using the blue disc in the art journal. It will just help me a bit, I think, and let's see where this is taking us. Let's dive right into it. So to help me with the process, because I cannot even paint a stick man if you pay me to, I will try and get myself some sort of a mask. So I'm using some of the packaging material. Yes, it was stamps, doesn't matter. I'm just going to try and get a few mountains done here. It's wide enough, barely wide enough, and we will see how this looks when we are done. We need that, we need this one. Let's do another set, a bit finer maybe, smaller mountains, not. And as always, if you have tips, please share it. I am honestly open to it, and I can learn from all of you. And hopefully you will also feel a bit inspired and try something different. We might sometimes have stuff already that we don't use that often. Sometimes it's just there in our stash. So we've got these 4 parts. Let's see where this is taking us. Be mindful of the holes again. Yes, if I didn't punch it in, you could have easily just changed orientation and then punch it in. To me, it was important to get it straight because I sometimes don't get it straight. So let's see. We need some watercolor paint. I'll use a spray bottle and just start with this. So what I think I want to do first is to start with a background, and I will work in the center. I'm thinking of a sunrise, maybe sunset-y type like theme. How this will pan out, only time will tell. Only time will tell. So for now, I'm thinking of having more of the sky showing. So I'm visual. I'll just pull the line across here, there. So sort of something of that sort. So there will be more space to work with the sky basically. It can of course go a little bit higher, doesn't really matter. We can use that as well. So let's get started. If I add yellow to here, it will turn green. So I will have to start with a bit of gesso to give me something to change the background color. And of course, it's a primer to help the paint grab onto. And as always, a bigger brush is preferable, but I'm just going to use this one. Tiny bit of paint and a bit of water. Yes, it will dry, so I'm not too worried about the water on the cardstock itself. I just want to grab or maybe 2 pieces just to work on so that I don't put too much gesso on my work surface. There we go. And as you go, you can just add a bit of water to help this spread a bit. And no, I'm not worried about the direction of this yet. I'm just trying to color that blue. If you add a bit of water, it is a thinner application. It's not as thick as when you want to prime a canvas, for instance. And apparently I had used a blue paintbrush previously. I see some blue in the tub. And now I'm not worried about the brush strokes. That is so evident. It will be covered shortly anyway. But more there, as I think I put a bit of paint now on the back as well. Or maybe there's some paint on my paintbrush that I didn't wash it out completely. So that is it. I'm just going to rinse that or pop that in a container with water, close the gesso up, and have gesso all over the show, like I have some food coloring on my hands. Made Play-Doh at school, and nope, it stayed on too long, so it is not washing off yet. It's better than it was yesterday, so yes, always something to be grateful for. Life of a teacher. Not that I'm complaining at all, not that I'm complaining. This just needs to dry for a little bit, and then I will be right back. This is now dry. Remember, the more water you add and the thicker you make the application of the gesso, the longer it's going to take to dry. Now this is what paper doesn't have a memory. We can bend it a bit to reshape it, but there we have it. So let's get started. We got our mountains out already. I grabbed a bit of cotton wool because I'm going to use that to dab on color. So I'm going to spray yellow, orange, burnt orange. I don't even have a proper red in here. I just want to clean this one as there is too much brown in it for my liking. We will get to the other colors just now. So a bit more water, just spray it on top, and then we will get started. So for this, I would want, and this will seem counterproductive though, a bird of blue, just a tiny bit, and I think I should rather just add it in here, reactivate that color that I've used before, a bit of water on there, so maybe this would be a sunrise in its entirety. So I'm going to just use this, a little bit more water, just a bit of blue, not much. You can hardly see that. So just a bit of blue. And I'm dabbing this on. Is it the best technique? No, probably not. But I did warn you I'm not a painter, and I just do what I think will work for me. And I'm going to turn this over and open it up so can. And I've got a bit of orange there now, but that's not a big issue. Just a bit of blue. Not much, just a bit. There we have that. Now I need, I think, a bit of cardstock just to mask this. Punched a circle from a piece of about 80 GSM cardstock, and I'm also keeping that circle because we will be using that in a little bit. So I'm going to use more or less the same technique that I did with the blue, and I'm going to add yellow. Water. You can use a dropper as well. So for this, I'll use this piece and just mask that off. So I want a bit of yellow here. And of course at the bottom a little bit more color, more intense. Could you just use a paintbrush? Yes, of course. You use the tools that you find is working for you. And as you can hear, I'm just dabbing on the color. And of course blue and yellow makes green, but we will rectify that in a bit. And now with this, I want to just add a bit of this yellow ochre color, just to intensify the yellow here and there. And yes, you do take some of the color off as you add more. Does it even make sense what I'm saying? That there's now white shining through because I probably lifted the pigment from there. So it's almost like a twist and turn type like action to dab it on to get a bit more coverage. And you can let it dry in between applications, and you can layer it as you go on. So I'm just going to wait this a little bit so that it can dry. If you have a dryer, you can use that. Something like a hair dryer or a embossing tool, you can use that to dry. And like I said many times, where I am, it is quite hot. I just want to get a bit more color on here. Realign this a bit. Yes, we will add more color as we go on. I'm going to move to some orange, just a bit. I guess this first I have to dry a bit again, because there I've got a white spot yet again on here. Can you do this with acrylic paint? Yes, of course you can. I'm just going to give this a moment to dry. You can add your water with a dropper to your watercolor. That can also work. I just don't trust myself with a paintbrush to try and do this. If you have the skill, please do it with a paintbrush. And here is a bit of an issue with that lifting consistently. And what I mean with I don't trust myself with the brush is that I don't know if I will be able to do what I envision to do. So I just use the tools that I can. I normally use my fingers for my mixed media projects, but I don't think I'll get the desired effect with the watercolor paint. If it was acrylics, by all means, I would have jumped in already with my fingers by now. I just need to get this spot fixed as it keeps on lifting. Let me just increase the color a bit. Okay, let's try the finger. You see? And I might just swap to fingers now. I just don't mind getting my fingers colored. As you can see with the Play-Doh food coloring stains on my hands already. I want to add a bit of orange to this. A bit of yellow ochre, as that will intensify the yellow. And there I left that again. Even with my fingers, so when it's to it, I left the color. Right, now this red orange color. Oops, I just dropped the water bottle. My apologies for that. And look at that. It just simply keeps on lifting up. But we will get that sorted. There we have it, so let that dry. I really like the way that my fingers are actually applying the paint. I need a bit of water in there. There comes the blue, so I didn't wash my brush properly. That explains that blue streaks in the gesso jar earlier. You've probably never seen a person adding water paint with their finger before. Use the tools that you are comfortable with. I mostly add mediums and paints with my fingers. especially in my mixed media projects. Orange though. Let me see if I can get that sorted. I think this must just dry a tiny little bit before I try to add a bit more color. I will start on this side and just leave this bit here to dry for a moment or so. If you cringe just thinking about adding paint with your finger, please go ahead and use brushes. You do you. I do not mind having stains on my hands. Just one batch of dishes and it's all salted again. Well, this didn't prove to go, so that doesn't always work perfectly well. A little bit of water. This area is a little bit drier, though not completely, and it keeps lifting the paint now, but let's add a bit there. I will conquer this little white spots that I've created earlier. Or maybe not. Let's see in a bit. Let's see in a bit. I'm absolutely determined to get these spots away, so I'm going to add a bit more paint there, and again just let it dry. And this side too, a bit more pigment, and then a bit of orange. And I think it's safe to say that the white spots are now sorted. And I just want to add a bit more color in this area, which will resemble the sun, the rising sun. So I'm going to dip this in a bit of gesso, that gesso water. And yes, I sometimes do talk to myself. While we get that sorted, a bit of that. And there I lifted that again. So if there's too much liquid, it lifts the color. So I guess this will just have to dry yet again. Won't take too long. I am making a mess here. Just a little bit of airflow there to dry the pigment. I'm going to let this bar dry for a moment or so, and then I will come back to it in a bit. I'll just wave it about. Now, right now it doesn't look like much yet. I agree with that. Just leave this part to dry. There's a blob of paint there. There we go. That can work. And again, my favorite tools, my fingers. is looking a whole lot more like what I envisioned for it. We'll just get that feel across. I'm just going to wave this about so that this can dry a little bit more. Oh, it keeps splashing. All right. And if it's dry and I tap it, then I lift the pigment off, which is sad. Then I sit with a white spot or a lighter area yet again. So let's stop with that layering there. One last bit here. And then for here, I just before I lift that color yet again. Wait, where's the mat? So I can just mask this. Now this just needs to dry because I want to mask that area and have a circle over it so that it can actually and there's a piece of something. There we go. I'm just waving this a little bit so that it can dry. I now want to mask this area off, so I need something to close this, and I then need to add this bit. So I'm going to move this up so that that is masked, and then I want to just add a bit of pink here. I hope that is the right color choice. My pink is not very pink, it's more of a purple. Just a bit of water there. And yes, I could have used the spray bottle, but the water was what I used to clean the brush with, which has got a bit of gesso on it. It's the strangest thing that I've got a watercolor set without red in it. To me, red should be one of the basic colors in a set, as it's a primary color. that just needs to dry as well for a tiny bit. I'm going to just wave it with this cardstock just so that we can move this along. You can see that it is drying really quickly. You can see the sheen there in the middle, but it will dry real quick. I want to mask that, so I cannot put the circle on it because it will really stick to it, and then we have a big oopsie. I just want to add a bit of color to here so that that line is not so visible. I think we're getting somewhere. But this one, and with this a little bit as well, it will pretty soon dry. So for this next step, to add the mountains, I'm going to use these masks that I had cut earlier. Now, I did spill a bit of paint there, so let's just quickly wipe it, as this could just prove disastrous. So we don't want to smear anything. We don't want to put colors where they're not supposed to be. Let's see. So we need... I'll just move that out of the way. And this in a little bit. And then let's see how this will pan out. And seeing that we're working on this part now, I'll just move that up. So for this we're going to use black. But I need to put a bit in there so that we can get a lighter color wash. Some on that side. I'm just trying to see how will I add this so that it makes sense. So the first layer of color should be a very light color wash, which is going to be difficult to see. So we'll be adding a bit of gesso to this so that there's more grip to the paint pigment. Just mixing in some gesso there. Yes, there's now a little bit stuck on the paintbrush. I'll just guide that down so we can mix it in with that. So the first color would be the lighter one, and I'm just going to add that so we can have a coverage. And yes, it is lifting off the orangey and yellow tones, but we will get that sorted in a bit. That makes for an interesting grey color with a bit of orange in there. And again, I will just let that dry so that there's something for the paint to stick to. Again, a little bit more of that orange coming through because of the color here. I suspect there will be a bit of pink after this. It will all come together in the end. And here we have a bit of blue shining through, but that's not an issue. We will just adjust the horizon a tiny bit. Want a bit more of the gesso in there so that the pigment is a bit darker. That's a thicker application. And I'm lifting up some pink I see from the sun. Keep lifting the paint now. There's quite a bit of red pigment on the brush. Let's get this dry a bit. This will take a little bit longer. I'll just wave it about and I will be right back. Adding a little bit more black to get a darker grey color. We are now going to use these masks again. And now the paint is sort of dry. Let's continue with the thicker part of it. So I want to turn this so we have a different layer. For this one, we need to add a bit there. And we will still add more layers of paint. There's a bit that we need to fix that side, and then add a bit of this grey, darker grey colour. And again, lifting the colour off. My first layer of gesso was really, really thick. And this one keeps lifting. Same as with the first layer when we did the sunrise. If I add too much paint, it actually lifts off. I don't want to go too dark, as I want to have the mountains closer to the darkest colour. I think that is good. Let's add that same bit there, and it can dry. Just wetting my paintbrush so I can get some pigment on here, and then add it there. A bit of water. Just going to wave this a bit so that it can speed up the drying process. And I'll just continue this. So just for the last layer for the mountains, just adding more black. And for this, I'm just going to freehand it, not using a mask. A little bit more of this intense black for the mountains in the foreground. Just putting a little bit more grey in there to show the differentiation between the shapes. And that can dry. Now, for the next step, I just want to add a tiny little bit more orange to the sun. And this brush is black now, so I'm getting a muted tone here. Let's just intensify the color. The black will dry, so I'll turn this over. Just using my finger there again, just to bring this out a bit. This took a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but I am quite satisfied with this. It will serve as a reminder for me to always look for the beautiful in everything. Even though it's not perfect, I still like the outcome. Thank you for joining me in this very long process of getting this sheet done in the art journal. I hope you will feel inspired by the fact that even though things don't go as planned, that you can persevere and make it work for you. If you want to see more content like this, give me a thumbs up. And as always, I'll appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel too. See you back soon. Goodbye.